Welcome back to another episode. Once again, I'm your host, Kerstyn. I have my co-host with me.
Hello, Maxine here.
Hello, everybody's favorite conservative in New York, Christopher Wright.
And we are Politricks Podcast. Yes, we still need a tagline. Max and Chris, we got to think of a cool tagline.
Yeah.
All right.
Something not being fake news has to be in there, I think.
Yeah, something about fake news. Okay. Today we are on episode 5. Thanks again, everyone, for sharing the podcast, leaving comments. Please continue to share it with your friends. Follow us on Politricks Podcast on Instagram. How was your week?
It was busy, mainly because the kids are out of school this week.
Oh, boy.
They have the break from school, so, most parents are like, ugh. So it's one of those kind of weeks where your kids are home and you just want to, run out the door and never come back.
Any funny stories from the week?
Not yet. My head still hurts. I'm just going to be ready for them to go back because they have all next week off. Most of the parents are like, we cannot wait to drop them back off. So
oh my gosh.
It's not much of a break for me.
How about you?
The only thing I can think of is I was in the city, Anthony Scaramucci, which was Donald Trump's former assistant he had from the White House was here, and he spoke to us, a young Republican club, and he's Italian, New York guy. Him and Trump are very close friends, and he's like an Italian
Scaramucci. What do you know?
It's
Wasn't he on the campaign?
He was.
Wasn't there some scandal because he got fired or something?
It was something that
it's always something, something or another. I can't remember it.
No, he was out there and he was representing, and so it was a good time, man. He was Italian New York guy, so it was a lot of, hey, man, quit, everybody's trying to get him after Trump, man. What's going on here? It's my guy here, you know what I mean? So it was cool, man. We had a good time.
Yeah, I was out of town for. I got to speak at Cornell University, which was really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I got to speak about a couple of days ago. So it was really nice to see the kids in college. And, I talked to them about entrepreneurship, which is really, really cool.
Oh, yeah.
Really big.
Remember you mentioned that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to do that. And also just was out of town for the... Something's in a Water Festival, which is really cool. It's in VA. So really exciting stuff. But let's get into these topics because we've got a lot to cover. Again, thank you everyone for listening. Please like, subscribe, tell a friend to tell another friend. Mm-hmm. Let's get this podcast to thousands and thousands of people.
That's we want new friends, unlike Drake.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about mental health. The stigma in Black families. But this is one thing, right? I think that there's some contributing factors for people of color, and I want to talk about that. I don't want to just talk about the stigma because we all know what the stigma is. Everybody knows Black people don't go to counselors or therapists. It's not part of. We're not depressed or whatever. But forget that part for a second. What are the contributing factors to the mental health of Black people and what affects them?
I mean, I would say, I guess they're day to day. You know what I mean? And depending on whether they're dealing with a lot of different kinds of stress in their job and kids, being a single mother, because that's what, for me, in our first episode, I called myself a mental health advocate. I do that because I'm not licensed or anything, and I can't really use any other kind of term, but I speak out publicly about mental health because I went through my own experience of I have anxiety, and then I went through a period of depression, and I would say it was a combination mostly of my job and my kids and all those kind of things that made me end up in my depression.
Well, what do you think the stigma is for other people who go through that? Because they say a lot of Black women have, and Black men, obviously. Someone said a joke. I think, I watched that movie, what's Little, a couple weeks back, and one of the no, that wasn't what it was. It was in The Chi, excuse me. The Chi, in the movie, in the show The Chi on Showtime. They basically said the mom was taking her son to a therapist. Now, The Chi is based in Chicago, and he had witnessed a murder. So obviously there's some kind of lasting trauma that he's
PTSD.
Yeah, and he also shot someone, and he's like a child, no more than 9 or 10 years old. So that's the character on the show. And he was like, Mom, why do I have to go to therapy? This is dumb. I don't want to do that. And she was like, black people have, he said white people only go to therapy, not black people. And she says, black people have dealt with 400 years of slavery. I think black people need therapy. Like, and it's like, you know, one thing that I like that people are doing with the mental health community is that there's trying, and I think Oprah's also doing something with Prince Harry. They've produced something about mental health. They're trying to also combat the stereotypical terms or things like people thinking that you're crazy because you have a little bit of like issues that you're trying to deal with and you need to speak to someone. But I feel like with black men, it's like, who do you talk to, right? At least black women have like their friends that they can say for some, right? Not everybody, but for some, it wouldn't be weird for a black woman to talk to a girlfriend and say, I am so stressed. I don't know what to do. My boyfriend is cheating on me. That like, it's not uncommon. But for a black man or a Hispanic man, where are they going to go and speak? Who are they going to speak to?
Good question. I lost my mom from colon cancer when I was 20, and I didn't say a word to my friends.
Wow.
Didn't cry. Did
they even ask you?
They were worried about me, of course, because they so you know the worry was there, but the way I was looking at it, it's like, you guys have no clue. You guys can understand what I'm dealing with right now. So what are you going to say that's going to make things better? You can't say anything.
How did you deal with it? Because that in itself is something that white person would go to therapy and talk to. You know what I mean? Like if they're, no, I mean, but for if you have the option to,
some of them that'll be an option that'll pop up. Alcohol and all kinds of things.
Okay, that's true.
Perpetuate the mental health problems.
You're right, and a lot of people do. I know a lot of people.
There's just a stigma in general. You know, I mean,
maybe is this not a color barrier thing?
It's totally a color thing because it's worse in our community.
Yeah, we have it where, you know, if a white male said, I went to see a therapist after I lost my mom, people wouldn't be like, you won't be that low back in your mind, like, really? Like, you're a man, you're a white male. Like, no, but as a black man, it's like, if we go to therapy for anything, it's like, oh, wow, but you went to therapy.
The thing about mental health, though, it's like, I know we're talking about therapy a lot, but it's not even just the whole, like, therapy. It's the whole awareness of, like, everything that's involved with mental health, the different conditions. Like, people have no idea about this stuff. You know what I mean?
It wouldn't make my life so much easier if I went to therapy. Like, because I dealt with it in anger. There was times I would punch walls. I would because I was upset because sometimes I didn't cry, not realizing that because I was in shock. And I think if somebody was there to tell me, you're in shock right now. So that's why, because when I didn't cry, I was like, am I cold-blooded? Because my mom's gone and I'm not crying. So I'll react in anger. Yeah. Wow. So I was going through all these crazy emotions that I was going through where I would have went through just one main emotion I should have went through. It would have made life a whole lot easier.
And you know they're changing.
Everybody handles grief differently, so maybe that was your way you were handling it.
Very true.
They're changing the terminology to, like, some people are using life coach instead of therapist.
Maybe that will help.
Or counselor, like, to just get rid of the stigma. One of the things that I do, I teach about self-advocacy, because some people, no matter how much you deal with the stigma and like all that, and at the end of the day, they're just like, I'm never going to do therapy. And a lot of people don't even know, because again, they don't have the conversation, they don't have the resources to know that there's ways in which you can advocate for yourself, and there's practices and things that you can do to heal and deal with trauma and get through your day-to-day and be centered and balanced. Okay. And I try to help people.
So I'm going to give you some examples, and you tell me what people of color, because I wrote down some examples of things that I think black families deal with on a regular basis. And I want you to give us some kind of, if you can think of something in because I know you are a mental health advocate. So bills is a big concern for black families, like paying the bills, having enough money. You know, the economy is important. So for them, the bills are the most important thing for them to be able to handle. And unfortunately, what can a person that's struggling at home and doesn't know what to do, what do they do to lessen the stress or the mental burden of, like, that anxiety that keeps you up at night of, like, how am I going to pay these bills?
That's a good question, because it's just one of those things in life. It's easier said than done thing. Like, if I say, oh, just relax, take a nap, sleep it off, and it's like, okay, buddy, try. I'm gonna have lights tomorrow. Okay, sleep it
thank
off.
You. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, I went to sleep and I woke up with no lights.
I just stayed asleep after I have it. You know, so why
at least, guess what? You got a good night's rest.
Exactly, brother. You know,
oh, God.
That's a good question, man, because I think in our community sometimes we have like a superficial way of thinking sometimes where, gotta have find the best shoes, the nicest car, the nicest whip. So we got something on top of other races where it's like if we don't have certain things, like we are like socially less than others. And even if we have the money, even if we have a car, what kind of car you got? You got Volvo, man? Like, come on, man. And so it's like we have that. And I think if we didn't put so much focus on the superficial and the materialism, I think that might help with when it comes to the bills.
So what do you think? Give us. That's a good point. Give us your take.
So my first thing is compartmentalization in this, not only just mentally, where I do this mentally because one of the reasons I have severe anxiety is because I overwhelm myself with thinking of everything all at one time.
Me too.
And I usually
it's a woman thing. I think
that's a woman thing.
No,
I'm not saying
I list those things.
I'm not saying that's like only women have that issue. Men can have that issue as well, but women.
And it starts to feel like suffocating. So I have to mentally compartmentalize what I'm thinking. It doesn't have to just be to-do list. It could just be I'm thinking of all these motions at one time and it overwhelms. So I've learned to mentally compartmentalize, but also prioritizing like the things that matter most. So when it comes to bills, I would say that you have to look at what are the necessities to survive, right? So food, shelter, rent, like you have to go through these, and maybe some things are going to get maybe your phone may get cut off, or you have to figure out which ones are really important. And at the end of the day, it goes back to I guess what Chris is saying around you have to figure out what things matter and what things you don't necessarily need. But what's really, really important, and we don't do in the Black community, is we don't face this conversation around money. Like we're not really taught and equipped to really, it's like an ugly thing and we're uncomfortable talking about money, dealing with money. And I think if we get over this fear of facing and addressing money in general, then we can deal with the lack thereof or the situations that we get into where we're not able to really support ourselves. But we have to, like, a lot of people, it's kind of like you run away, you don't want to deal with your problems, you can't pay your bills, so you like kind of don't want to face it. And you have to be able to face it, because then you can really kind of get down to what is my situation, what am I living above the means of, what can I adjust here. But a lot of people just get overwhelmed with the whole conversation and the topic, and they can't deal with it. So
that's true, because if you look at, I work for a Jewish company and they talk about money like it's like, they talking about, the breathing air, you know what I mean? It's like, and they do it in a way where it's not like, oh, I got more money, or I get money, or no, it's like, nah, man, like, invest in this. You should try investing in this. Look and doing this. And it's everything they say. It's like, how to stretch, and it's not about bragging. It's like, they don't do it in a braggadocious way. They do it in a way just, hey, man, you can make money and be successful in this category like me as well. All you got to do is like this, that, and the third. So it's like this education, and it's like, so I see that. I'm like, we need to do that amongst our community, I think, more as well.
So what about safety? Crime is a big concern for Black families living in, for a good majority of African Americans. They live in urban communities that are, crime driven. Yeah. What do they do?
I would say
what do I do if I'm afraid of my son, or my daughter?
Conversations. You have to, so I don't live in those situations, but I think that parents need to have the conversations with their kids about what they're being faced with and how to put themselves in environments where they're safest. I mean, like, for example, my daughter, I have to talk to her about the drills they do at school with the mass shooting.
She does those drills too?
Yeah. Oh, wow. And so you wouldn't think kids are going to school. I mean, the kids are going to school with bulletproof book bags sold out this year.
Whoa.
Sold out. Man. Right. So we don't think about the
when
mental.
When was that created?
This year, I mean, they had them, but they like really, it's like the book bag, they put like a bulletproof thing in the back. Anyway, they sold out. And so,
holy times are changing.
I mean, it's different. I know what you're trying to say, like the crime-ridden areas, but I'm just saying think about the mental health of the kids that are going to school and they feel, I'm not safe. Because I have to walk around with a bulletproof, bag. I have to know this drill in case someone comes. So that like affects them. So you have to, the only way for me to alleviate my child's, anxiety was to talk about the conversation, and let her, I have feeling sessions with my kids, but to have her talk about how it makes her feel, and then let's talk about how to make you feel safest, and whatever. So I think just being like, you live in this unsafe situation, it is what it is, and you walk around with fear, talking about that anxiety and making sure that they really know all of the precautions to take and everything they need to be in the most safest situation possible can help alleviate just somewhat.
Well, I mean, I think I just thought of something. I thought about when I was in 1990, it was like 1993, I believe it was, when I think they had the earthquakes in LA. Do you guys remember the earthquakes of 1990?
No.
Yes, I do. I remember interconnects. Yeah. I do.
Okay. So that earthquake, I remember I had a pen pal. Like they made us like in school. I forgot. I don't know what grade I was in.
We did the pen pal thing in school.
Yeah. So we had to write letters. You guys don't even know what pen pals are. That's listening. Well, the people are younger, under probably 30. They don't know what a pen pal is. But
wait, what? You don't email?
Actually, yeah, you you had to write like literally write a letter to another person, right? So we were writing letters to the kids, this school that were affected by the earthquake in 93. And I thought about it and I said, wow, I remember writing the letter and I remember the person writing me back, right? And the person writes me back and they said, thank you for your letter. I'm so sorry that you had to go through the earthquakes also. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what? I live in New York, dude. I was like, I didn't go through an earthquake. But then I thought to myself, and I don't know why that always in my mind, like I was like maybe 10 or 9 or whatever. I don't know, maybe later. I mean, maybe even younger, but I still remember that. Mm-hmm. And I thought about, I was like, geez, that person had to go through an earthquake and lost everything. You know what I mean? And I said to myself, is that a new form? Like, I mean, obviously earthquakes don't happen as often as, and gun violence in schools don't happen as often as earthquake. I mean, it's pretty, it's like once every few maybe years or months or whatever. So my question is, do those people have mental, like, do they have anxiety? Everyone who lives in LA has to deal with earthquakes. You know, this is our new form.
It depends on how.
So I'm like, I'm just wondering how does the brain?
I think in common as well. Like, you know, like certain parts of Florida got to worry about flooding and different hurricanes and stuff like that. So I think if it's something that's more common, that you're like, you know, it's a good possibility. Don't act like you're not gonna get. It's not possible.
So you have anxiety. Everybody, like I was, and that's another thing. I was in an earthquake in LA just a year ago. They had like they have minor tremors all the time.
Yeah.
And I literally was staying at my friend's house, and I took a nap at her house, and she was at work, and I was sleeping, and I felt something shake me, and I was like, I'm like, what? And I in my mind I thought she came back home from work, was shaking the bed to like, and I was like, but why would she do that? So weird, you know? And then I looked and no one's in the room. I'm like, what the heck is going on? And I'm like, what is this like? And then I hear all these like sirens and stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is an earthquake. I looked online, it was an earthquake. But they happen all the time. They just know what they have to do.
Safety is the key.
So everything is always, there's always something that's going to like challenge us and our anxiety, you know, but you know, there's
like we talked about this briefly in the last video, like with me and my dad with the policing, how you taught me how to talk to officer. And I remember he would tell me when I was 12, 13 years old, and I'm like, you know, okay, Dad, I get it. Like, why is the thing with the cops already? You know what I mean? Then when I got pulled over and I saw how things got handled, I was like, wow, okay, that's why.
But did it alleviate your stress when you're walking in and out of unsafe environments my dad had this conversation with me already, and I feel equipped for whatever's about to come.
Definitely.
Okay.
I never even
I was worried, of course, about, you know, I didn't want to get points on my license. I didn't want, you know, to get, you know, arrested for some crazy thing they might, you know, who knows me or that. But at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, technically it shouldn't do nothing to me wrong because I'm doing everything my dad taught me to do step by step.
I think that parents like just like for me, your dad told you this was a specific thing, like when you speak to a cop, this is how you talk to them. And maybe because I'm a black woman, maybe my parents would do that for me. But for me, it was just like respect your elders. So I've always it didn't matter if they were cops, teachers. Like I didn't curse out my teachers. I had friends that would habitually in class. Like I remember one of my friends cursed out her teachers so bad that she lost her privileges to go to her prom, and it was like the day before.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and I was just like, dude, what are you doing? I never had that feeling of, I was never that angry to be like, I always knew to respect them. So even if I was angry, I would just like hold it in and just, you know, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's...
And I think cops is the same thing. Like, I'm not going to treat a cop disrespectful, even though I see online that this is happening to cops. And I know we're all like jumping into all these random tangents. You're probably like, what's going on? But basically, I know that I didn't need that.
But what about, so we're tackling it from the perspective of children, which I think is important. But what about like, you know, a black person that lives in an extremely dangerous neighborhood and they're like 50 years old and they just want to go and they have the anxiety of when I get out of the train, like walking home, like what am I going to deal with and be faced with? That's a completely different situation.
That's
you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a different concern. Totally different I mean, and as you get older, you start feeling more because you know so much more. So you're like starting to feel like, oh, did I forget to turn off the lights? Oh my God, did I forget? Like you're always thinking in your brain. So it's like, I mean, we talked about safety. I think if I were to say, what would I do for safety? Like, I do think that we need to speak to cops a certain way, you know? We have to find a way to communicate with them where they don't feel like you're challenging their authority. Because when you challenge their authority, they have the gun, they have the right to react because of the law that's given to them. Unfortunately, until we fix it, we have to keep, because the point is to keep our black sons and our black daughters safe, and and if we're gonna get angry, let's get angry the next day.
Yes.
Let's not get angry in this case. I think that's the rule. The rule is we'll fight it. Take the badge number. Take whatever you have to do. Okay, sir. Yep, I got you.
So you were thinking of safety more to police brutality?
Oh, I don't know.
Against each other,
crime.
Oh, okay.
Anything. I mean, there's so many. Safety means in everything, right? So there's the safety of the.
Because I think I'm also thinking about like as someone who is a victim of domestic violence, like. That when you talk about mental health, that was one when I was in an abusive relationship, which many black women are.
Oh my God!
Unfortunately.
Oh my God!
When you talk about what was affecting my mental health at that point, that was the number one. I wasn't safe in my own home.
Oh my God!
Yeah, that's scary.
You know, and it's like
that is scary.
That's scary.
No, you know what it is.
To the point where I never planned to take my life, but there were days where I did not want to wake up.
Oh my God!
Wow.
You know, so I think when we think about safety, there's so many different avenues where we can look at it. We can look about how do we alleviate the stress and anxiety of our children. You know, we can and then we can talk about women who are in domestic violence. It's a whole nother situation of safety that's affecting their mental health. Yeah. And I mean, I was poorly depressed in that scenario.
And I think you come with a perspective of like surviving it, right?
Yeah, but
so many stories don't have that. Like,
but I was in it for several years, so I remember what it was like to be completely trapped and not be able to leave the situation.
Okay, so let's unpack that for a second, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So as someone going through something like that,
yeah,
at what point, where do you get the strength, I guess, to say this is over, like this has to be over? Do you have? Is it something that you have to? Because we see the news, we see Oprah and all these you need to leave him, girl.
Right.
What do you? It's easier said than done, right? Completely.
So a lot of times when I tell people, when you're trying to support someone who's in a abusive relationship, you have to understand why they haven't left yet, which is what you're referring to. And majority of the time, there is a dependency. So I have friends now that I'm trying to get them out of their relationships, but I come to them with compassion and sympathy because I understand what they are going through. There's a manipulation perspective, so they're literally mentally trapped. You know, that's one element of it. But there's also normally a dependency that is keeping them. It's childcare, it's money. There's different reasons why they're depending on this person. And for me, that was the case. So I knew
and there's men that know that, and that's when they get abusive sometimes.
Yeah, most women, it takes 7 to 10 times for them to leave a relationship. Abusive or not, it usually takes several times for them to be leaving in a relationship. And I came back. Because, I was in a shelter, like I did all that kind of stuff, but it was always this dependency that kept me coming back. So when you ask me where did I get the courage and all that kind of stuff, it was more about, I knew logically I have to deal with these dependencies, and so I had to finish school, number one. Because I wouldn't be able to support my child on my own. So like a lot of women, you got to see, I always tell my friends, let's go through, what are your dependencies with him? Let me help you figure out how do we,
because the ones I can't understand when I see the woman with a guy who's like a bum. He's the one crashed on the couch and she's going to work.
That's why it's a mental thing. She's mentally, You know, it's a meant for
So how
in
do
that
you?
case.
Yeah, because that's another.
That takes healing therapy. There's a lot of things there.
Oh,
but,
that's different because.
But I'm saying in her case, where she's not financially depending on this
she's
man.
working. She's doing. She's.
But is he
taking care of
watching the kid? You know, like
he's like upset. No, he's just depressed that because that's another thing too. He's also depressed that she's working and he's not. She's contributing to the household and he isn't.
She may be the breadwinner. She may be the breadwinner. She needs his sitting on the couch because he's watching the babies,
or
so that she can be. I'm just saying, there's so many of these scenarios where it may seem like there's no dependency, but there might have been still.
Okay,
but
that's just me from the outside looking in.
Dependency to be in a relationship, or there's that dependency to still be in a relationship with
codependency.
I gotta be with somebody.
I'd rather be with someone than be. I know him. He loves me because he hits me, so he knows me.
There's
and that's another.
It's
a scary one.
Well.
That's a very scary one.
It's emotional codependencies as well. So, but the point is, I brought that up to just say that's an element of safety as well, and it took a huge toll on my mental health.
Yeah, and I mean, all these are all factors in the Black community. In fact, in the Hispanic community too. I mean, Hispanic people, it's the same. Like our struggles are mirrored. You know what I mean? The only difference is they have another language that they can kind of communicate with. But we really do have the same kind of struggles. And you know, I think that we need to do more to lift each other up.
Yeah. I agree because I mean, I've been in situations where I've been in abusive relationships where I've been the one getting abused.
Really?
Oh yeah. I've been women.
Women?
Yes. Oh yeah. No men.
Oh, okay. No, not happening. Not saying.
One.
We don't hear about it, but it definitely.
Very, very much.
Physically, or
physically, two times. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
One from Brooklyn, a girl from Brooklyn, and she hit boy.
He said a girl from Brooklyn.
She hit me. I was like, whoa, man. Yeah. So
and you just what did you do?
Well, that's my father played an important role in this as well because my mom was physical with my dad a couple times. So and my mom has my personality where we get to a certain anger point, we'll just black out, and the next thing you know, somebody's hurting the ground, you know. And so my mom, she would get like that with my dad, and when she would snap, she would just go all in, and she wouldn't go in with like a softball. She was going in the blood, you know. And then my dad would show me, like, you know, and my dad's a military guy, he could defend himself very well, but when my mom attacked him, he would just, what he would do was, you know, he'll hold her and, you know, get her to the ground and hold her down and just calm down while she's scratching him and he's bleeding, he's cut, and she'll eventually just get tired. And then when she
went through some trauma, you saw this stuff?
I saw this, you know. And when you're a kid watching it, you know, it starts with the physical arguing, and then, you know, when you're a little kid, you want to stop that, but then your parents are like, you know, mind your business kind of thing, and then it gets more aggressive, and then when it gets physical, you're kind of like, what? It's
kind of interesting because you've talked about your parents several times, and this was never brought up. You talked about arguing. Mm-hmm. But what you just talked about was dangerous and traumatic. And I wanted to bring a point that, I'm sorry you went through that, by the way.
No.
But I wanted to, because it's almost like it didn't even occur to you to bring up the fact that I've witnessed physical abuse.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Wow. But what I wanted to mention, and I was going to say this before you mentioned that, I'm happy you did, is there is no expiration date on trauma. I realize that. And in the Black community, like, we need to understand that our trauma, it doesn't go away. It does not go away. So last year was the first time I went to a therapist. And this is like 5.5 years after I've left my abusive relationship. I'm like, oh, I'm strong. I've moved on. I'm good. I've had other relationships. I'm fine. I'm cured. I'm healed. No. It wasn't until I went to therapy that I learned, like, that trauma never went anywhere. It just manifested in many different ways in my relationships and my interactions with people. So, like, that's trauma.
Oh no.
Yeah, we could. I mean, and this is such a sensitive topic, and I think we can go on and on about different things, especially abuse, because there is a lot of different. There's sexual abuse that we haven't even touched on. There's verbal.
I dated quite a few Black women who dealt with sexual abuse when they were younger, and they would take it out on me initially.
So many.
And I'd be like,
yes, I was sexually abused.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that.
Wow. I'm really sorry.
No, and I got a personality.
Really,
I know
sorry about
God
that.
kind of created me with a personality, I guess. I got, like, women open up to me. Like, I'll date girls, like, on a second date, they'll be like, boom, this happened to me when I was 8. And I'll be like, you know, so at first when you're young, when you're 16, you're like, okay, I'm sorry. But, you know, now I'm getting older, I'm kind of like, you know, I'm more comforting than I was, you know what I mean? Because it's just...
It's the fact that, and I mean, in our last episode, we talked about violence and why our why is there a higher rate of violent crimes in our community? And I think there's sexual trauma, there's physical trauma, there's a lot of this stuff, and I really do think that there's just this. I think mental illness is really
big time.
Mm-hmm.
It's very important.
I think it's a normalization of violence, which is why he just glossed over. He never even thought to be like, I went through. Because I remember we had asked one day, we're like, what was it like growing up with your parents being married? You never even thought about that.
Didn't even think about it.
Because that's the normalization of violence in our communities and trauma.
How therapeutic is this podcast?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
Also,
we're getting on topics that we didn't even know that. I
mean, we'll tie it to politics.
Always.
No, but
it always does.
My ex-husband, he's from Bermuda, so Caribbean, kind of. Even though it's technically not in the Caribbean, but it is Caribbean island. And I am adamant that he's bipolar. Like adamant. I know because my sister's bipolar, diagnosed, and her biological father's schizophrenic. He's literally like in a psychiatric ward. So I have, and my mother's sister is bipolar as well. So I know what bipolar looks like, right? And I know my ex-husband is bipolar. I couldn't get a single person in his family to listen to me and just consider it for a second, because Caribbean people are like, they hear you talk about bipolar, mental illness, and they're like, done. Conversation is over.
Yeah.
They're worse than American blacks, I think, when it comes to that, dealing with their
Africans. I think Africans and Caribbeans are the worst when it comes to acknowledging, dealing with, like, you can't even have the conversation in the first place.
Well, you know what we call that, and being the person of both, and I can speak to that. We call that first world problems, right? Because what happens is when you live in a country like Haiti or an African country like Ghana or Ivory Coast or Nigeria or wherever you're from, Cameroon, whatever, the first thing that you're trying to do is just survive. To eat is a good day, right? Yeah. To eat is a good day. If the water's running and I get to shower and get to work, I'm okay. Yes. That's where I start my conversation. So adding now my mental health, well, of course my mental health is messed up. I haven't eaten 3 days. Right. My children haven't had, a running water or lights to do their homework, or you know what I mean. Right. So that's where it stems from, right? So when they come here and they see that people are saying they're depressed and stuff, like, what? Wake up, man. You're depressed. You see, you live in America. You've got they equate having all these opportunities, being able to go on your phone and go on the internet, being able to jump in and out of Ubers and live your life the way you live it. So that's really where it stems from. I think it's going to change because now thankfully, thanks to Democrats, globalization has the world is so we're so connected, so now it's like what happens in America still affects people that live if I live in Jamaica, because I can see it, I'm affected by it, so our government structure is affected by the things that are happening in America, just obviously because America is the biggest superpower. So that's one reason why. But still, it's just we live in a globalized society, so we get to intermingle in so many ways. Before, in the 50s, like China, I didn't know what was going on in China. If I was living in the 1950s, there was no way of me knowing. I couldn't, you know what I mean? If I wrote a letter to some random Chinese person, then I would probably, hey, what's going on over there? What do you guys do? Right? There was no way of seeing it.
Like from movies or something like that.
There was no way. 1920s. You think people knew what was going on in Bermuda? No, I had no idea. Now I do have access to that. So, and it's interesting. When we talk about this abuse thing, I think about, because one of my friends just expressed some stuff that she was going through with her husband, and it just breaks my heart. But how I took the conversation, I said, it's horrible what's happening to my friend, but then I thought about the person, right? The person who does this, right? The person, because it's hard, right, to even see the aggressor as, someone that needs help as well. Do you know what I mean? It's hard to say that.
I mean, that's why I think child molestation is worse than murder, in my opinion, because when with murder, it's all bad, but when you murder, it's like, okay, the person's life is lost. this person going to jail for life. Okay, that's sealed. Child molesting, you molest a child, you go to jail maybe, and that child grows up and he might go and molest a child. And then when they're adult, you look at them as the enemy. But I'm like, you don't remember that little boy that got touched when he
So it's just, there's a lot of factors, and I think what it all stems. We keep saying the same thing. It's this mental health that. If this happened to you as a child, and if you got healing and you were able to deal with it and you were able to understand what the problems are, if you weren't shunned, like, oh, I'm not supposed to do I'm not supposed to do this, or I'm not, you need to learn that it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So
maybe you wouldn't fight, maybe you wouldn't be so verbally aggressive to your wife if you understood how to control your anger. You know what I mean? The triggers, whatever your triggers are, you understood, like, okay, one of my triggers is she comes in, I come in when I come home from work, I don't want to be bombarded. Maybe that's a trigger for you, and that makes you go crazy. You know what I mean? So what do I have to do when I come in the house? Okay, first of all, I need to talk to my wife and say, listen, I need a good 20 minutes before you talk to me about the problems, the bills, the this. I just worked for 10 hours, and now I traveled. It took me 2 hours to get home. Maybe I'm just saying, this is someone's story.
No, it's funny.
This is someone's story. You know what I mean?
It's funny you're saying this, because I'm thinking, I got friends in the white community, and I'm thinking about, like, I can think about my friend's mom that was like that. Like, she knew her husband's routine, like, before he came in the door. And when he comes home, he likes his meal like this. He likes it like, don't say this to him. Don't talk about this. And, so I think other communities, they know that situation, like, how not to, that's important. Like, what are the triggers? What are the things that's going to set my husband off? What things can I say when it comes to my wife, and what can I not say? And that's a good.
Well,
that's a good.
I want to.
I'm not saying that's just any community. This is a white people thing, but it's. But I'm saying I've seen it with.
I think we're gonna see change in America, but I'm going to Haiti next week.
Oh, okay.
So I am so excited.
Yeah.
But I'm also going to be faced with and seeing this extreme levels of poverty. And my friend and I, we were thinking we're going to visit a very, very poor village in Haiti, and just extreme poverty. People haven't eaten in days. Kids are naked, don't have clothes. I'm not saying all of Haiti's like this. I'm not trying to paint a bad picture. But I'm just saying
beautiful parts of Haiti,
right? This particular village that we're going to, and he mentioned to me that some of the teenage girls are just they don't have a lot to look forward to, so they're like sleeping around a lot. They don't have sex education and contraceptive. So they're like 25 and on their sixth kid. So we were actually thinking about going there.
25 and on their sixth kid,
or like whatever. Like they'll have. I've seen that in other countries as well. But we were thinking about, should we do like a little mental health thing there? Like would that work? Like if we have a motivational speech to these teenage girls. So it's a very interesting thought that you were bringing up, but bringing it back, I guess, to America, which is, I guess, more relative to you guys here. I think we are starting to wake up and realize, okay, we're not shackled anymore. We're not, we're not living like survival mode. We can start to think about our mental health. We can start to acknowledge and accept it. And I think that, as a parent, one of the things I'm doing, I mentioned it earlier, is I'm having feeling sessions with my kids.
Yeah.
And we're constantly talking about our feelings, and I'm making it normal, and especially raising a little boy where I feel like I want him to understand how to express himself but not take away his masculinity.
Don't be feminine with it now.
Right, I'm trying to balance this off. But so I think it's a combination of parents, just black parents in particular, black or brown parents, getting that early on with their kids and expressing their emotions and their feelings and talking about it is one way we can tackle it. But we also, like me tying in policy again, I think our politicians need to help bring mental health resources back to the communities. It has to be in schools.
I think they never had it.
Well, I'm saying we need it in schools. We need it in the medical.
Funny? We did though. We did, because I remember we had guidance counselors. Did they still have guidance counselors? Okay. So I remember in our school, like in high school, excuse me, our guidance counselor her name was Miss Hirschberg, so they used to call her the Hirsch, and they're like, oh God, the hearse is coming. And it's like, and in class it would just be like, here comes the hearse, and it's like, oh God, who's she coming to get?
Yeah.
So then she like, excuse me, Kerstyn, you need to come with me. You're like, what? Me? I don't need anything. You see what I'm saying?
I ain't crazy.
I'm fine. I'm good. And she's like, can you please come with me? And I'm like, and then it's so funny. I walked outside with her once, and this happened to me really, and I'm like, wait, what's going on? And she was like, oh no, I'm just introducing myself. I've never spoken to you, so I was like, oh, okay, yeah, but you just took me out of class. Everyone thinks like I'm like crazy or something. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you see how like, and that's just like your guidance counselor, but we always equated the people who left class with Miss Hirschberg, the hearse they would call her, because she would just walk in and just kind of
that if they made mental health a conversation in the classroom, it wouldn't be, it
would be weird. And
then I just think that even in the medical industry, like the resources we have and all that needs to change.
No, I mean, a lot needs to change because,
people have to pay for therapy. It's like...
Yeah, it's expensive, man.
Very expensive.
Like, I can afford that, but what about the black or brown person who can't?
Can't.
So they're already hesitant, and then you give them the price tag, and they're like,
exactly.
Peace out. Nah, I'm good on that, dog.
Seriously, seriously.
I walk it off.
That's what that Liam Neeson did when he how did you get over having those racial, he had these racist tendencies. He says, I did a lot of jogging and I walked it off, and I spoke to a pastor. I said, oh, okay, those are, you could have went to a therapist, buddy, because he was literally looking for like I don't know if you guys know the story of like so look into that story. It was actually funny when he said that. It just reminded me of that when you said that. Okay, so let me jump into political pandering. I think we got enough of the it's not enough. There's never enough. There's so much we can talk about, but we need to kind of move on. So do all political politicians pander? Is campaigning just a form of pandering? And
to an extent, yes. And that's, because like I was talking to Maxine earlier, like when I was younger, I've always been into politics and history. I said this a couple times on the show, but I said, when I was young, I said, I'm going to be a politician. I want to be president one day, all that good stuff, yada, 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 yada. But when I got older and saw how campaigning was, and I saw like the process of campaigning and all the stuff they had to do, and it's just like, to me, wasn't genuine. It wasn't genuinely, they weren't being genuinely who they are. They were like
Agreed.
faking the funk to get votes.
Right.
And I'm like, and then when I got older, I said, you know what? I'd rather be more in the commentary side of things, because then with the commentary, at least I can still be myself. I can talk politics, but I can still be Christopher Wright. And at the end of the day, while I'm doing the politics. But I feel if I was a politician, I would kind of in a way have to fit in that box, man, that political box, in order to get votes. And that to me is, a form of pandering.
Totally agree. I feel like the entire campaign is just one big pander, because like, it's sometimes more offensive than others, and it sticks out, and it's so like not genuine that it gets like the viral bites and stuff. But essentially, like, you're not normally in these spaces. You're not normally talking to these people. You're like, most politicians like are completely out of touch with like their constituents.
Like,
there's a few of them that tried to keep staying connected, but most of them are not. So when you're doing the co-op,
I'm looking at the tax cut.
The picture co-op pictures, or you're like at the bar,
after tax,
just having a drink with the local union. It's weird when you're like, when you put like you got your boots on, you're in the swamp talking to the farmer. Like, even if it's like white people with white people, it's still like you wouldn't have been on that farm. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like, I don't know. And
I love Trump's pandering. Like, Trump,
so I got $100 less of the Trump. So I was going to say, you know what?
Trump. That's what
I was going to say.
He did campaign like rallies because he's a narcissist, but like he wasn't in the local bar.
No, definitely not.
He doesn't drink at a party.
But I'm saying, did he go around punching you? Did your numbers?
He doesn't drink at all.
I said, yeah, he doesn't. I know. Imagine him drunk.
I saw my check. I thought I got a raise. Let me tell you something. This is why Trump one of the reasons why he caught like wildfire is because when people were tired of the politics. Here comes a guy, you know he's brash. He's a New Yorker. He's in your face. He's like, oh my God, all these things you can say. But people voted for him because they're like, at least he's real, man.
Yeah.
He's like my neighbor, man. Especially if you're in New York, walk outside.
But why do I want someone real? I need someone to do the job.
But that's, I think all the political real people get the job done, though.
Right. But the pandering stuff is just
going to these places.
I think, pandering is for, like you said, it's for the campaign, right? It's the optics for the campaign. It's for you to be relatable to your constituents, right? And you have to touch the people. You can't just be standing on the high horse. The way Trump did it was so different than any other politician in the past, because you do have to go eat the burgers at the local Piggly Wigglies. Because that makes me feel like you know me.
We know when you get elected, you ain't gonna be back here.
No, it's because you don't. I need to get you to know that you've got to talk to me, right? So it's like when celebrity
have a town hall. Like, I don't know.
I know, but I think the pandering, I guess people can get. It's
like a necessary evil, right? Like,
I think so. I saw something with like just recently, right? I saw like something that Pete Buttigieg was saying, and he said something like they asked him a question about what he likes to eat. Or music, what he likes for music. They also asked him about what he likes to eat, but for music, he was just like, well, I like, kind of. I'm pretty simple. I like I'm a guitarist by trade, so I like guitarists like Jimi Hendrix, and like he was just naming guitarists. He said he liked Dave Matthews Band. It didn't seem like he was lying about it, right? But he then they're like, okay, well, play the guitar, and he's like, well, I know how to play certain parts, and then he like tried. It was like on TMZ, by the way. Oh, he tried playing. Yeah. He was like playing, and I guess that was a form of pandering, right? Yep. Where it's like he's afraid, like, because what happens with these politicians, they're deathly afraid. Like, why politicians don't go to like Fox News, or like even why some like Hillary didn't go to a lot of times to like MSNBC or any of these, like they stayed away because they're deathly afraid of what they're going to say. Their people are like cringing, like, oh my God, I don't want them to say the wrong thing. And that's the problem. Yeah. So you end up pandering. So Hillary Clinton sits on the Breakfast Club, and she says, I have hot sauce in my bag. She really... she thought she was trying to be cute, right? I don't know what she thought.
That was silly. That was crazy.
Because we knew... And then she gave us that. This is what the worst part of it. After that, she says, "Well, hot sauce is good for your
fried chicken."
No.
Please don't think she went that far off.
She said like a scientific term of why hot sauce is beneficial.
Good for your bones or something like that. She said, okay, yeah.
But it's like, dude, really? Like, you don't have hot sauce in your bag. You could have said anything at that point. You could have said anything. You could have said, I got hot sauce on my bag, right? Beyonce told us to do that, and then kept it like that. You know what I mean? But she doesn't know. But she's also trying so hard to connect with us.
But I think the problem is, and I don't want to be giving Trump any credit here, because I can't stand the man. Okay, but I think and I think this is just in general in like society, we're yearning for authenticity. Like we want to see it in everything, in media and music and everything we're doing. We're no longer like the perfect persona.
I think the country's starting to change.
We're moving away from this. So like even I think any form of like campaigning any form of like traditional campaigning, I think is just not going to work in 2020. And I'm noticing it like me. Even I'm getting like kind of annoyed with like even the most innocent. I sent you yesterday, Kerstyn Gillibrand. She was like she's like, if you look at her Instagram page, it's like every other. Oh, poor child. She's just like, she's the sweetest lady. I've met her. She's really sweet, but like every one of her posts are like her in like the bar or like whatever. And the last one I saw yesterday, she was like putting her makeup on with the drag queen, and it was like like. This is like me, and it's like, really, girl. She was like in the dressing room with the drag queen. I'm like,
I'm not even getting my makeup done by them. Like, come on,
ma'am.
stop.
It's ma'am.
If you go in the comment, no, you guys, if you go in the comments, she had some people in the gay community with their rainbows, and they were excited about it. But I'm not even in that community, and I'm kind of like, girl. Like, stop.
Please.
We all said at the same time. We all know.
I think honestly, I don't know who, but we have to get the message out to Democrats. Like, this ain't gonna work.
Yep.
And I think that's probably. I mean, I think that's why Bernie was so maybe successful, because he did do it, but not as much. He did more of the like Trumpy campaign rallies.
And like I said, I don't agree with a lot of them, but he brought a lot of policies out. Here are my policies. This is how I'm going to help out the community. Yeah. This is how I'm going to help out America. So, and I didn't agree with most of what he said, but at least he's not talking to black people like we're dumb.
I can't.
Hey, yo, I like rap music and hot sauce in my purse. Like, okay.
These, like these one-off, I took a candid. I can't.
Why do our politicians think that we need, when it's like when they come talk to blacks?
Candid, it's not candid.
Yeah,
you know, and it's I can't.
Max is showing us pictures from Kerstyn Gillibrands' Instagram, which is
it's like a people who dealt with a recent flood disaster, and it's like her holding the hands of and it's like I just happened to be.
She might have she might have a really bad campaign strategist, social media.
This is traditional campaigning, and most of the candidates are doing this.
Not everybody, not all of them are doing that. Not all of them.
Who's not doing this?
Is Beto doing that?
Yes, but Beto jumps on it. The thing that people like Beto will go to the bar, but he'll jump on the he'll jump on the counter, and he'll be all
his arms waving all crazy.
And he still brings the theatrics to it, and it makes you suddenly feel like no one could fake that. No one could fake being that way. But this random.
Well, you can fake that. You just it becomes your
really good at it.
Yeah, it becomes like, okay, that's the shtick. It's working. Go up there, do it.
It's either they got to turn into some Oscar-winning actors and actresses here for this pandering to work, or they got to get it together and do Trump type stuff. I mean,
well, what
for us to win?
Did Barack Obama do a lot of pandering back in the? Do you remember anything?
Obama was very smooth. I give Obama credit because he mastered the art of politician. You know what I mean? He did pander. I remember when Obama he sung Al Green. When at that one time, and he didn't, but he did. But that's what I'm saying. He didn't do it in a way.
He doesn't like the Al Green. You think? Why could he not
pandering?
No, I said the way because it got a lot of black people automatically on his side. Automatically, we don't even care what you say at this point. You sung Al Green. You sound pretty good.
He was singing in front of a black church. Al Green.
He sang our Amazing Grace too.
Yeah, he's.
But that's what I'm saying. But that's technically in a way.
I think Obama. Honestly, I think Obama
has swag.
I think Obama.
That's what I'm saying. He has that swag to go with it. So he does it very well.
Can you guys agree that we will never have a president like Obama? I think everybody and maybe it's me, but I feel like everyone that they've put up, I don't feel what I felt with how I felt with Obama. Obama made you feel
that over there.
But you did. He voted for him twice.
I voted for him. I campaigned for him.
He obviously felt something too.
Mm-hmm.
Did you feel that way about Trump?
No. No, it was a different feeling with Trump.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you would never feel a feeling of hope and optimism. Obama's the first black president. Period. Goodbye, everyone. Close the door. It's over. He did it. He's
Obama forever changed my life in the fact that when I talk, people say I sound like Obama now. Before Obama, I sounded like I was white. That's all I heard. Yeah, you sound white. Why are you sounding white? From white people and black people.
That's true.
And as soon as Obama went for senator, as soon as him announced that he was a senator, people at my Comcast I worked, all my technicians see me in the morning. They say, "Hey, what's up, Senator? Hey, what's up, man?" So they were already before he's in president, and I was
before they didn't.
So that's why it doesn't matter how I feel about Obama. At the end of the day, I always will thank Obama for at least becoming president, so I could be able to talk.
At least there's something you can attribute to him. All right. Well, let's get into our next topic: reverse racism. You always hear. I guess white people feel like there's a term which is reverse racism. They feel like a lot of people of color, black people in general, specifically I should say, are turning racism back on them. So is this a real term? Can black people really be racist?
I say yes. Me and my sister had an argument about this. Shocked, right? Everybody out there shocked? I know.
Let's go. Do it.
Yeah, but because she said, you can't be racist in the community because you got to have the power to be the racist.
Correct.
And I said to her, racism, and the definition of racism is hating somebody because of their skin color. Mm-hmm. You can be broke and hate somebody because of their skin color. You know what I mean? You don't have to have power to hate somebody because of their skin color. And if you start thinking like that, that's how you start okaying racist behavior, and that's how you create a racist community of people, because it's like, well, hey, man, we can't be racist, man. I can smack this white boy upside his head. You know what I mean? I can't be racist. And that's how I see what, like you see, the knockout game they had going on. When that whole thing was going on, the knockout game was just black people knocking out white people. That's what that was. But nobody
I don't even know about that.
The knockout game. And
how about let's when we do that, we have to always remember 400 years of slavery, okay,
yeah,
and Jim Crow and lynchings, like and all these things. Sometimes, like, you know, another thing about me. I'm sorry, I'm jumping out of this topic, but we'll go right back to it. You know, the Me Too movement, right? Someone said, oh, well, now this was like a woman speaking, and she was saying, well, now men don't know how to react to women because they don't know how to, at work, they don't know if they should like shake your hand or if they shouldn't give you say good morning because they feel like it's a Me Too movement. It's like, enough of this, enough. Because think about the hundreds of years of women having to be sexually harassed at their job or mistreated, raped, like any kind of sexual abuse that they had to deal with and have to go home and like figure it out. You wake up in the morning and try to figure it out. And now men are uncomfortable because they don't know what to say. How about stop saying stuff that will be offensive? Just like you say what you say to a man. How about you wouldn't say a man, you're so beautiful? Why would you wouldn't say that to a man, would you?
No, but we would say stuff like, hey, what's up, man? Good morning. Hey, and we'll say
that's
things.
That's fine. You can say good morning. But would you say good morning, beautiful?
Oh, I mean,
to another man.
No, but you would say you look lovely today. Hey, oh, you look lovely.
To a man?
No, not to a man. I'm saying, let me rephrase this.
Okay.
Like when a woman comes into work and she comes in and she's well dressed. Hey, hey, good morning, Susan. You look very lovely today.
Why do you have to comment on the woman? Now we're jumping out of
because
sorry. Let's just go there. Let's just come here.
Right.
Let's go here. Why? Please explain this, because I don't understand. And this has nothing to do with any kind of political party. This has to do with just men and women. Why do men feel the need, and this happens in my line of work,
same,
why
do men have to comment on what you're wearing? What I look like have to do with what you have?
Biologically
we are the hunters and you guys are the hunted. And so when you come to work, and we can see that you guys were you guys put yourself together, and we can tell we're not dumb, but it boils not always sex. I'll tell women who are older women who have husbands or kids,
driven biologically more than we are. Correct?
Yes, we are. No, that's true. That's true.
Don't give them any excuses.
But when a woman walks in, and women, you guys take your time in getting dressed in the morning. Sometimes you guys
men
really
don't?
Not like women. No,
we're not asking for
you guys put yourself.
though.
How can you not though? Because you're putting yourself together so much. It's like how can you
male attention.
You better. I wake up in the morning like, girl, I can't wait to see until men see what I'm wearing today.
Comment from John.
Hey, John, come on.
Good morning, beautiful.
Good morning. He didn't say good morning, beautiful to me. Oh my God. Okay, tomorrow I got to dress better.
And see, and that's what I think. But I honestly think if we got all together one day and said, you know what, we're never going to call them a woman ever again, and y'all got all dressed up in the morning, came to work, and you never received a compliment, I guarantee it will affect you guys.
So I want to be devil's advocate, as I often am. I do have men, because I do diversity inclusion diversity inclusion type stuff at work, right? And I have had a lot of men say, especially maybe the
younger, the older.
The older ones? No. More, I don't really deal with them. Like the mid-tier, trying to really look at the head of their career, and they don't want to make a mistake. You know what I mean? So they want to make sure they do this right. And I do have a lot of them say to me, like, I don't know what to do in a lot of these scenarios. I don't know what to do. Good morning is one, but I'm talking about there are scenarios where they just don't know.
Yeah,
right?
Sometimes I said that to the man. It's okay if I say this.
The answer is, like, to me, it always goes back to like having a courageous conversation. Like they need to hear from us. They need to understand. Like they don't have like a crystal ball. So like we don't explain certain things to them. I know that's ridiculous. We shouldn't have to do that.
That's true though. That's true.
They just don't sometimes naturally know, like some things are uncomfortable or whatever. So I do want to say that there are some men who are willing to have the conversation and adjust their behaviors when they do so. But this whole like, oh, now you're making everything uncomfortable for me and now I got to do extra work, or like that's bullshit. Excuse me. Sorry about that. But I also want to say, how do you feel about women that like fake stories, or like, how do you feel about them in terms of the Me Too movement?
Okay, so yeah, so there are those, like, so we have like the Jussie Smollett case, and we have like stuff like that, and we obviously have
Christine Ford was,
and we have women. Well, I wouldn't go to Christine Ford because I did believe Christine Ford.
Who's that?
Christine Ford, the woman that
Kavanaugh, the whole Kavanaugh hearing.
Right.
Yeah.
Dr. Ford.
Dr. Ford.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Hey.
Thank you. She's like, I didn't recognize her. Thank you. I'm sorry. Dr. Ford's testimony. Yeah. I do feel like there are women out there, and we've heard stories of women, I mean, that will say, this person did this to me, they attacked me, and it hasn't happened. And it ruins the career of the person that they're attacking. Mm-hmm. And I mean, I think for us, it's like, what do we do? What do we do? Do we not believe the accuser, the person that's accusing the accuser? Are we supposed to just ignore this or say, well, we need proof? Because it's like, I hear that and I'm like, how can you get proof? Like, I can't, like, if something happens to you, you have no problem. Is the next
I'm concerned about the next victim.
My thing is this: we need to let women need to listen to me on this one. When it happens to you, as soon as it happens, report it. Don't wait 25 years and this guy's about to be a judge, and all of a sudden
fair.
I mean, but
culturally they couldn't do it
in the 1980s.
Now,
well, you know, maybe now I'm not looking at maybe from like 1980s, 1970s.
If you feel like now we need to do that,
let me rephrase. Now, women, when you are in abuse in a way, because we are in the Me Too movement era, where if you come out and say, "Hey, this." Like we said, like it means this. Like back in the day, like we were saying, like a woman couldn't come out. Now a woman can come out. Nobody's going to attack a woman for saying this man raped me. Nobody's going to be like, they can be like, hey, shut up, man, go sit down. Ain't nobody trying to listen to this. No, we're going to be like, whoa, what? Who did?
Honestly, I feel like I'm like VP, like at a mid-level part of my career. Mm-hmm. Okay, working at a large financial institution. If something happened to me tomorrow, and I'm looking ahead at like career and my kids, and like honestly, even in the Me Too movement, I don't know if I'd be comfortable. Like, you say my director or something did like what? No, I don't. I still don't. I don't feel comfortable.
I think that's both. But even men have the same issue when it comes to when they got women that do with that in the workplace that are higher above them than they are.
Take advantage of men.
Oh yeah, and that's what I forgot what actress that was when she came out with during the whole Me Too movement and was accusing all these men of doing this to her. Then men started coming out and accusing her. And then she was just like,
what was that?
Yeah, I said,
a woman that was accusing people, and then a man said, no, she did it to me.
Yes, there's two young men that came out and said, no, she sexually abused me when she was. Let's tell the whole story.
Yes,
you know what I'm talking about?
17-year-old. Yes, he's right. Mm-hmm. He's right.
Yeah.
That probably I don't know.
And
there was an actress that claimed she was she another one of the Harvey?
Do you know who it was?
One of Weinstein, Harvey Weinstein girls that got abused by Weinstein.
It turned around one of her castmates that was like 17 at the time said, or when she so okay, but that probably doesn't happen as much. I mean, I don't know. I have no clue. I don't want to say that that's not fair to men.
Because remember, you guys aren't the hunters either, so it's not going to happen. Even if it's like men are bred like it says when I walk in a room full of women. I might get some, ooh, hey, mister, hey, look at you, a little of that or whatever. But when a woman walks in a room full of men, we go into like a hunt mode where it's like it's like a competition now. It's like, hey, watch me spit my game. I bet what I say is going to da-da-da. Oh, man, come on, man, I'm the flyer than you are. And we could be laughing and joking, having a great time before she walked in. We were just all comrades. Woman walks in.
But why can't you hunt without sexual harassment and violating her body? You can still hunt. You can still do your whole thing to get away. Like, I think that's what we just, and especially, first of all, it's like, if you're a married man and you saying "Good morning, beautiful," that's not your hunting.
Now, I agree with you on that. Now, when I see a married man, see a man that's an older man, like say like his 70s, 80s, or he's married and he's doing that with a woman at work, I'm like, bro, what are you doing as a man?
And I think that's because we were talking about a politician that Joe Biden and his accusations against him. Isn't he a married man? Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them are
but
married.
He wasn't. But these are people he knew. Okay, the Biden's case is.
I don't know the Biden case.
Yeah, the Biden case.
But there's like 4 or 5 women.
So,
There's not just one.
Yeah, but nothing. It's never been sexual.
Did you hear him at the latest speech he did or whatever? And there was a little boy there, and he put his hands.
He was trying to be funny,
and he said, "I've already talked to him and his parents, and it's okay that I touched him." That's like the man. No, that's like the men who are like, "I don't know what to do now, so like I'm gonna like cross all my T's and dot my I's,"
and or be like sarcastic and like, "Hey guys, I'm not sexually abusing." Yeah, I do.
So to me, that's like drowning out the Me Too movement in a sense.
It is
exactly.
like,
and I see Joe Biden, and look, as a man with Joe Biden, the way he touches women, girls even sometimes, is like, look, when I got a friend with a daughter and she's 12 or 13 years old, I'm not going to put my hands on her, period. I might shake her hand and say, "How you doing, young lady? My name is Chris."
Do you guys know about the 5 love?
But still, I wouldn't put my hands in her hair.
Do you guys know about the 5 love languages? Are you familiar with the 5 love languages?
What's that?
One of them is physical. There's 5 different ways people express love to each other or whatever, and one of them is physical touch. And so like, I feel like Joe Biden is like, when those people just have to touch everything is
of course.
Yeah, so
I know people that are touchy feely, and I'm like,
I think even culturally, like in some cultures, it's like totally okay if you go to other parts of the world to like touch and kiss and all that. And I guess in America, like
you have to be invited,
right? So there's so many different like dynamics to this conversation and things you have to think about. But
I think Biden.
That's another thing too. The match of different personalities we have in this country. Some people.
That's true. So many different cultures. We all have different upbringings. I think Biden got caught in. He's been in politics for 50 years. He's done a lot of things. Thankfully, yet there hasn't been one that was like, whoa, how outrageous. A lot of these things are pretty like, they're just like, he doesn't know people's personal space. That's
like
what
when he touched her head, the back of her head or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, he was talking to her. He had his arms on her shoulder, and he was kind of like, she said he was smelling her hair. But I think what he was doing is just like, he probably gave her a kiss on the back of her head, which was not necessary. Her husband was right there, but he's also...
Or whispered in her ear.
Or whispered. But, but it's just a little extra. It's so extra. I know that if someone did that to me, I'd be like, "Hey." Yeah. Like, I'd be like, "Okay, thank you. Oh, stop. It's okay."
Yeah.
But and I have no problems telling someone to stop. I have no problems.
But not everyone does.
Oh, that's when it's a problem.
Right.
But it's always... the thing is, us women, we need to now know we are in charge of our body. We are in charge. For so many years, we haven't been in charge. And that's why, another reason why, and I hate to say this, but, I guess with the abortion and the topic of women, the government being responsible for what women can do to their body, what they can have access to. And, really it's just, women have never had their full autonomy of themselves, right? They've always had, either when they were growing up, maybe their dad was the one that was like, "No, you can't do this." Their mom, their dad, then the teachers and this, and they've always had, and they never felt totally control of their body. That, sometimes they do feel like, then you have women that are a little bit more promiscuous and are able to just be out there because they don't see the worth in themselves. And I do feel, I don't know, I'm kind of working through this because I just literally just came to my mind, but I do think that I might be onto something. I think that women don't know the power of themselves, right?
Yeah. I don't think
they don't know how important that, I don't need to be promiscuous to get a guy to like me. I don't. If I don't want him to, if I don't want to do anything.
Some women will say like, that's not fair, because like, like the Amber Rose with the slut walk, and like they take it as like they're expressing sexuality, like that is a form of liberation and freedom. Like, who are you to tell me I can't walk outside with
100%.
Yeah, but then when a guy says nice tits, I mean, they're hanging out. I mean,
all I could say is, for people who prescribe to like an Amber Rose, like what she prescribes to of being sexually liberated, be able to control your body, be in control. If that's what you want to do, be in control of those moments. If you're having sex with multiple men, be in control of those moments, because that world can slide into danger. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because like, as much as we want, I wish we could all just be free and do whatever we want. It would be great.
Like Adam and
but
Eve,
unfortunately, there are so many things that come with that, that you open yourself up to so much. You know what I mean? And it's also,
and that's what I try to tell women.
It's easy for her to say, right? It's easy for her to say because, and I have nothing against Amber, but it's easy for her to say that, right? Because she was a stripper, you know, that's what she did since she was very, very young, 14 or 15, teenager. I heard. Mm-hmm. Like something really crazy in Philadelphia at the worst place, or Pittsburgh or something like that.
Oh, yeah.
So she's been free, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. There's other women, that's not the life we've had. We haven't chose that life. So we've chose maybe the book route. Maybe we're students, or maybe we went to college, or maybe there's different lives for everyone. So if that's what you prescribe to, that's great. If you're in control and you can take care of yourself and you're okay and you haven't been in any kind of danger, then good. But I wouldn't advise every woman to live by that. But if you can't,
those women will say,
control.
Just because I want to walk outside like this doesn't give these men, because some men will say, well, what you're doing it. So
no, I don't agree with that either. I don't agree with that either, because when you think about that what we're saying with that is that women are the reason why men rape them. Right. That's not true. That's unequivocally wrong. Because
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying as a man, we can't walk around with our junk hanging out, because it'd be like, that's disgusting. How dare you?
Okay, so that's fair. But women. But if we're talking about rape, at its core, what happens? It doesn't matter. Women can have turtlenecks on. They can have it doesn't. Men are going to do what they're going to do. Period.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what you're dressed like.
True.
You don't. That's something that every day women have to walk down the street fearing that they always have to look around accountability of like where they are, because they have to make sure that they're not in a position of danger.
Very true.
Right? It has nothing to do with what you're dressed like. So I want to debunk that, because that's 100% false. You can wear a burqa, you can wear freaking veils, you can wear everything, turtlenecks, sweats, jeans, anything. It doesn't matter. Men are going to be, if you're a deviant man, you're a deviant man.
Look at the Middle Eastern country.
Right?
Middle Eastern countries got a lot of rape going on. And look how the women are dressed from head to toe.
Of course. That's why it's so stupid when people say that. It's like, well, it's like people will always say stupid stuff to try to debunk what's happening. Mm-hmm. We have to be strong in what we're talking about. And what we're saying is that I'll repeat, if women want to be sexually free and do what they want, that's on them. You can do that. But be careful. Mm-hmm. Be in charge of where you are. If you want to have sex with multiple different men, fine, but be careful. There are certain things that happen, that you have to you have to protect yourself with. There's certain risks in that kind of behavior. And if you're a woman who doesn't prescribe to that stuff, and that's not your story, be in control of your body. Know your worth, know what you stand for, and know that you don't have to do what other people want you to do. Now, if you want to do it, that's a different story, but if you don't want to, don't do it.
So can I bring it back to the Me Too thing?
Okay.
So how would you? But does this affect your decisions on who you would elect? I mean, who you would vote for? Because they're accusations, right? And you're saying,
I don't care about that. I don't care. No. Wait, if it's, you mean like with Biden? I don't think Biden. I don't see him as a deviant. I don't see him as a sexual deviant. I see Biden as someone who doesn't know his people's personal space. But I also see him as a 50-year politician who is. I didn't say I'm voting for him, but I'm just saying that I don't see what he's done to be so wrong.
But does that affect you? Meaning, like, if you had your candidate and you loved them, and like a week before the election, an allegation came out, would you be like, nah? Because that's why a lot of people stayed with Trump, even though they had the grab him thing.
Okay.
They were just
totally. Oh, no. If I was a Trump supporter and I saw what he said, the whole Me Too stuff, I mean, the grab him by the pee, I would be like, nah, this guy's creepy. But then again, I would have known he was that guy. So I would have to be, you would have to be kind of retarded not to know. It would be. But if Obama, if it was like Obama, who example. We heard, my God, I would cry for
a week before.
I would probably cry for a couple weeks.
Would you still have voted for him?
I don't know, man. Yeah. I don't know. We have to. I don't know. What would you guys do? Leave a comment. Let us know what you would do.
Damn,
that's a good question.
Because if you're Obama supporter and you voted for him, tell us if you heard a week before that he did something that was
just allegations.
Just an allegation. We don't know if it's true or not, but it's like a week before. Do you think you would have still voted for him? Let's leave it here, guys.
Yeah,
This is the end of the podcast. Oh my God, this was a good one. Okay, we will end right here. So thank you all for listening to the Politricks Podcast.
Yes. Thank you.
Please hit subscribe. Please leave a comment. Let us know what topics you want us to talk about. And also, email us Politricks, POLITRICKS POD@gmail.com. Let us know what you want us to do more of.
Yes.
I'm Kerstyn J on Instagram.
Maxine.Outerbridge.
Everyone's favorite conservative in New York, Christopher Wright.
Yes, and we're out. And also, for the people listening, this is an early Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day to our mother, Max.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, happy Mother's Day,
I usually have to pay for my own mother's gifts. Yeah, because you guys, honestly,
you're at that age, though. You're at that point in life where you got to kind of
they have the Mother's Day sales at school, and I have to pay for my own gift. And I'm like, it's a thought that counts.
Well, don't they
give them some time? Give them some time.
No, they'll do like a flower drive, a flower bake sale. So then they'll be like, Ma, can I get like $20? And then like I come home and they come home with the gift, and I'm like, oh, that's why she wanted $20 so I could buy
Does your son drive you little things, a card and stuff? Does he just?
Yeah, he will.
Yeah, I remember being that age, though. I wanted so bad to get my mom nice things, but I was a kid, I had no money. I was just so I had to do I'll draw and I couldn't draw, so it was like, here you go, Mom.
It's a big deal. But happy Mother's Day. I hope you enjoy it, and all the mothers out there, my mom is included. Happy Mother's Day to all of you.
Rest in peace, Mother.
And
I miss you.
Say,
always
love to
you.
those who don't have them.
That's it. And happy yes, especially those who, and those, obviously you heard Chris's stories, so all those
they still live through you. Remember
that's
that.
Right. That's right. All right, do your mothers proud. All right, have a good one, guys. Have a great week.
Bye. Thanks.
Adios.